2, 1. And we are live. Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your source for Second Amendment news. We're giving it another live stream a go tonight. This time we have a very special guest. Do me a favor, if anybody on here has any issues with the audio, let me know now before we get into this. I believe we fixed it, but because there's a little bit of delay, I'm going to hold off a second before we bring in our guest here. Come on. Hopefully we're good to go. All right, audio is good. Alrighty, without further ado, let me bring in my friend, a champion here nationwide in the Second Amendment in the fight for what is right. Welcome again to the channel, Mr. Erich Pratt, the Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America. Eric, my friend, thank you for coming back.
Hey, it is great to be with you, Jared. Thanks so much. I mean, you do such a fantastic job educating gun owners on what's going on. And so anyway, I'm just very honored to be asked to be on with you today. So we can let people know what's going on.
Thank you, brother. Right? Thank you. So first off, if you are a member of this channel, you know how much Gun Owners of America is doing for us gun owners. And I implore you, just like I do all the time on my videos, please join the GOA. It is the membership that actually gets things going. They're the driving force behind their ability to do things. I will remind you again that they have a link for us for the Guns and Gadgets community. It's gunowners.com.org, gunowners.org/guns and gadgets. It's on the link, the description of every one of my videos. They're going to give you 25% off of an annual membership, which would bring it down to $15. Throw the other $5 back at them, plus some, because it costs money to do what they're doing. And when I tell you they're doing a lot, that's an understatement. And we're going to go over some of that. But first off, Eric, you've heard anything going on in Virginia lately?
Quite a bit, actually. I tell you, right after the election, I mean, well, we noticed, obviously, when everything went blue, we knew that we were going to be in for a fight. And so, the governor consider a confiscation. And so, we started hitting the legislature, rallying the grassroots in conjunction with VCDL, the state group that's been very active and has really been leading the charge on the Second Amendment sanctuaries. So the two of us have really been just, really trying to get people there and get a lot of heat going. And I think it's had an effect. Interestingly, the governor retreated on his support for confiscation and just an outright ban. Now he's talking about grandfathering and registration, which of course no gun owner is buying.
Right.
We know that's just a first step, and we've seen that in other states. That's a first state. But it's been so exciting to see hundreds of people showing up at local Board of Supervisor meetings. In some cases, thousands of people showing up at these meetings. In county after county, we hear that records are being set in terms of the number of people showing up. And of course, now we're at over 120 localities that have passed sanctuaries, over 90 counties. So we're looking at 90% of the counties. This is just unprecedented as far as any state in the union. So it is very exciting what we're seeing happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, major kudos to you all. You're a driving force behind it. You, the GOA and VCDL are, like I've said in another video, you guys are the two stallions that are in this race. And you're just knocking it out of the park. And on behalf of the entire gun community across the nation, my hat is off to you. I don't have much hair left, but thank you. You guys are killing it, and Lord knows we need it. I just checked your website, and as of January 7th, nationwide, there are over 418 counties, cities, and towns that are now Second Amendment sanctuary in 21 different states. That is amazing. That is I hope it's sending a message, but that is absolutely stunning. What are you seeing as far as the driving force?
Well, I think this is fantastic. It's really crucial that local governments are sending a message to the higher level officials that telling them, you are violating the law, you're violating the Constitution, and we're not going to help you enforce that. And it's so ironic to see anti-gun Democrats twisting all over themselves to say how illegitimate these Second Amendment sanctuaries are, because all along they've been pushing and supporting sanctuaries for illegal immigrants. Okay, so that's been okay with them to say that the local sanctuaries won't cooperate and won't help ICE. But when it comes to actually saying we're not going to help enforce something that's unconstitutional, that violates the Second Amendment, they say, no, you just have to, it's the law. You just have to support what the law is.
Right.
Well, there's a local talk show host here. And actually, he may be going more and more national now. I don't know, but I listen to him almost every day. His name is Chris Plant. And, he's got this saying. He says, if Democrats had no double standards, they would have no standards at all. And I think, that is so true. They are such the hypocrites. It's truly astounding. But anyway, this is fantastic news. I think sanctuary movement started in Illinois. I've seen different states, or being attributed as to who actually started it. But this really started in states which are very oppressive when it comes to Second Amendment protected rights. It spread west initially, and now it's come back east. But I think this is really important. I mean, we have, honestly, our origins in our history where when, the Fugitive Slave Act was passed to protect slave owners to be able to get their escaped slaves back. It was, as you read the pages of history, it's exciting that many states in the North, and especially many juries in the North, refused to convict people who were helping assist the runaway slaves. So to say that, this somehow, is unconstitutional to have these sanctuaries where you're not going to help enforce an unconstitutional law, and that, it violates our history and Constitution. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, this is firmly grounded, not to mention our Declaration of Independence, which was an ultimate statement of from lower level representatives telling a higher official, AKA the king, first petitioning for years and years and years, and then finally saying, we're through. Now we're our own separate country. So, this is really steeped in our history. And so it's exciting to see this, this coming back full force.
Yeah, and now we're telling King Northam where to go, too. So
Exactly right.
So
exactly right.
I'm sure you've noticed, a lot of people point out to me daily the media blackout on this. I have my reasons on why I think, because they don't want the truth to get out there. It doesn't follow the agenda. But what's your take as somebody who is nationwide and doing work in a lot of states? What do you attribute to the media blackout to our movement? What do you attribute that to?
Well, obviously, there's a bias that's pushing how the media reports this. And not only a bias, I mean, just the out and out deception that we're seeing from the left. I mean, I'll give you an example, or I'll give you a few examples. Virginia, late last week, the legislature voted to change the laws. Here we've got this big lobby day rally expecting thousands and thousands of people. I mean, we're expecting, this is being put on and pushed by VCDL. We're helping support it and push it. This is expected to be the biggest one ever. And so the anti-gun Democrats changed the rules real quickly, said you can't have guns in the buildings there down there in Richmond.
Shocker.
So shocker, right? So when asked about this by the media, the Democrat leadership said, well, this was the Capitol Police requesting this. They went to the Capitol Police and asked them for a comment. They said, we didn't request this. That's just simply not true. Governor Northam, blackface Northam, he's been saying all along, we want an open and honest discussion about this. So we sent several FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests to the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, several of the anti-gun senators and delegates who are introducing legislation, several of his agencies, and we said we want all communications between you and the governor and with anti-gun groups like Everytown. Not a peep. I mean, they are universally either not answering us or are dragging their feet in terms of the divulging of information. So much for an open and honest discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
My state senator is one of the leaders in the anti-gun movement. Sadly, he was at a hearing recently, was calling the gun owners who were speaking there children, that they're like children, they have mental health problems, things like that. He was caught on an open mic saying this.
Right.
Well, he was asked to come on a local radio station, in fact, the same one that has that talk show host that I was talking about. And so he went on and defended himself, and he said, well, yeah, he shouldn't have been saying that in private. He said, I should have just said it openly to the people that were there. And then he went on and he started defending his support for gun control and just lying about what the bills would do. Like, for example, he was talking about the red flag laws, and he said, well, a gun owner can easily get their guns back, after, you get a letter that, you're fine, et cetera, from the mental health board. Well, that in no universe is that actually happening. For example, there was a study done on Indiana's law, and even though the law says you're supposed to be able to get your guns back in 14 days, that's not the case at all. The study found that delays up to 9 months or more are just the regular course of events. So, the left is just steeped in lies. Yeah. I mean, even today, it was amazing. One of the Democrats, because a lot of bills got passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee today here in Virginia, and one Democrat was saying, with this red flag law, if you're falsely accused, you can sue civilly. Well, that's just an absolute lie. There's no provision in the bill for that. And given that the bill calls for the police or the Commonwealth attorney to bring the charges against the gun owner, are you really going to be able to sue them civilly? I mean, it's just one thing after another that, they don't get their facts straight, or they're just out and out lying. And I mean, that's the battle that we're facing. Just the bias. VCDL has done yeoman's work in getting people to show up. And we also put out an alert on Saturday as well to match their alert to get people to the hearings today. And it was fantastic. I mean, we dwarfed the opposition. We had a line going around the block. So what do the anti-gun Democrats do? They're going, and people are pretty much self-identified either with a Gun Saves Lives ticket, sticker, or the antis have, the Moms Demand Action shirt.
Right.
So they only allowed, even if the gunnies were there first, they had to wait and just stay outside, and they only had an equal number of people in the room, out of fairness, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is stacked, and it's very frustrating. But, thankfully, we get the last laugh because, we're going to remember in November.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, first off, thank you to those folks who commenting in the chat. There's so many of them, I can't keep up. What I've done is I've kind of worked this program so it'll put super chats up and to thank everybody properly. But I did see a couple messages. First, John Voorhees says that Cory Booker dropped out today.
Right.
Okay, that's a win. So no more googly eyes. Child friend. Also, a couple people have asked, and I'm going to ask you because you're familiar with the VCDL's Lobby Day, and I assume I know the answer, but I don't want to pretend I do know the real one. The 20th being MLK Day, national holiday. They're still in session that day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
All right. So they are in session, so people who are worried.
And if they're, and that raises a good question. Let me punt just a little bit. I don't know if they'll be officially having meetings or, floor debate. So let me say that. But historically, they are there in their offices. So people will be going in. And that's the whole point of the lobby days, right, is they go in and they're going to be lobbying, either the delegates and senators themselves or their staff.
Okay. So at least they're having office hours. So that's a win.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Because I know people from Massachusetts coming down. I know people from New Hampshire who are going down. And just they asked, and Wild Bird was on asking too, and just clicked my memory to remember to ask you that. So that is good. Um, I get this question a lot too. You're there. I'm asking you. Can Northam be recalled?
There's not a provision under the law like what Colorado has or some states to do a recall. So,
So they're stuck.
and quite frankly, he's term limited. The Virginia governor can only serve one term. So, he's got 2 more years with
Yeah, but
us.
he's trying to get his money's worth. That's the bad part.
Yes.
um, so they've proposed a lot of stuff. I'll go down the list. I'm sure I'm going to miss some of it because I get sick of writing. The gun ban, the gun confiscation, red flag, remove sheriffs and
Right.
police who won't comply to their orders, ban indoor shooting ranges, ban outdoor shooting ranges, ban carrying of shotguns across the state, ban magazines, create gun-free zones that weren't there for the last 200 years, registration, which precedes confiscation, calling in the National Guard. What is specifically GOA strategy, if you can tell the specific strategy, but how do you initiate stopping all of this?
Well, our biggest strength is our grassroots. And so we're mobilizing not only our existing membership to, giving them, these are the bills, the bills that you just mentioned, here's the bills. So call your delegates and senators and oppose it. And by the way, there is at least some, I mean, we'll know when all the votes are in, but there's some evidence that all the preparatory work over the last couple of months has had an effect. I've seen at least one article pointing out that there's legislators who are reconsidering their support for gun control. The fact that, over 90% of the counties have declared themselves to be Second Amendment sanctuaries with the outpouring, as we were just talking about, thousands of people showing up at these meetings. I mean, the fact that over 90% of the state has done this, a lot of the Democrats are representing areas where underneath them, the localities have voted for to be a Second Amendment sanctuary. So, there's a lot of pressure coming from the bottom up, especially for swing Democrat districts or, Democrats who are in so-called red districts, to really see the writing on the wall. My goodness, even, it's kind of like a foregone conclusion that Republicans running for president lose Virginia.
Yeah.
Trump lost Virginia.
Right.
And yet the recent poll now shows that he beats every single Democrat except for one, and that one just narrowly doesn't beat him. That right there tells you Republicans, independents, and pro-gun Democrats are really engaged right now. And whatever other issues there might be, they're becoming single issued right now. And, Democrats really need, they need to be careful because otherwise what they're going to face is what happened in 1994 where, Clinton lost the House and the Senate because single issue pro-gun Democrats crossed party lines and voted out Democrats in droves. And he said over and over and over many times, President Clinton did, that it was the gun control that he passed, the Brady bill, the semi-auto ban, which cost him control of the Congress. Democrats face that again with health care. I won't go into that, but they're really facing this right now. I mean, we're seeing like unions, which traditionally have been, very supportive of Democrats politically. Union members coming out in droves, just so upset with Democrats right now. They're really facing a backlash, and so there's some evidence that already some of these guys are starting to get it. But anyway, we're just long answer to your question. Sorry, Jared. You said, what are we doing? Man, we're putting the heat on them. I mean, there's an expression here, inside the Beltway. It was a famous legislator, congressman who said, when I feel the heat, I see the light. And that's basically our strategies. We get our members to put the heat on these guys, and that's what makes a difference. That's how we killed gun control, by the way, after the 3 mass killings in August, when Democrats at the national level were putting the squeeze on. They wanted to bring Congress back in from their August recess and vote on gun control right away. We generated over 3 million messages into the Congress, and that helped put a kibosh on gun control. So, that's the strongest weapon we have, and that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, and then one of the things I try to get through all the time is when people say, "All right, what do we do?" Reaching out and talking to your elected officials,
Yes.
your representatives, actually works if we do it
Yes.
in droves. With 1, 2, 3 people here
Yes.
or there. Like Lizzie Warren's not going to listen to me, but if 2/3 of the state rose up and started, fighting for our rights, then they would. But before we go further with a couple questions I have, I'm gonna really test the fact that I fixed this, and I want to show the folks your website regarding the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances, and we're gonna show them, thanks to GOA, how they can actually get it started in their locality, whether it's a city, town, or county government level, and feel free to add to it. But once I click over here, they're not going to see us. Hopefully, they'll see my computer screen. So let's give this a shot. Fingers crossed, everybody. All right. So it looks like it's working. What you're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is gunownersaction.org/SASO. This is how they're telling you that you can get a Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance started in your locality. Again, it's gunownersaction.org/SASO. And off of this, there's a couple different things that I wanted to bring your attention to. This is the map, first off. These are everything you see in red is a Second Amendment sanctuary. I like it. There's a lot of it. I wish there was some up here where I live, but there isn't. But also is a handout here that's prepared for you. You can just print it out, and you can have that for your talking points if you're going to go talk to one of your legislators and sound informed. And here is what I like the most about this. This is the template. You can just fill in the blanks on this document here, and it tells you, it basically is the form, correct, Eric? This is the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance for blank locality. This
Right.
is something they can use everywhere, correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So you just print it out, or if you have a PDF editor, it's 6 pages long. You put in your town and go to town, and you can submit it at your town meeting, your city council meetings, etc. And the last thing I wanted to show you is the petition. So some places you have to have X amount of signatures. That form, and we're back to both of us, but that form will help you get the information you need: name, date, and address. And that's pretty much that. Is there anything you want to add that might guide them towards getting this done where they live?
Absolutely. And thanks for pointing that out, Jared, because that's been a real valuable tool for people. And we could see an additional explosion in the next few weeks, because we've got several states right now that are percolating and considering this. One of the things that I should mention is unique about our draft is that it's actually a draft that has teeth in it. In other words, a lot of the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances, or actually they're more like resolutions that have passed, just simply say, we're not going to enforce any gun control. But there's no penalties for local officials that would do that. And so I don't want to poo-poo the resolutions. I think it makes a powerful statement, and it's good to have that directive from the Board of Supervisors to the county or the locality saying, we're not going to enforce this. But all the better to even have, like, for example, Wyoming is you could say a Second Amendment sanctuary state. They have a second, I forget the technical name of the law that's passed, but basically any gun control that would be federal gun control enforced in their state, they have penalties for people who would try to enforce that. That's like, at the state level, the strongest sanctuary law in the country. So if you're looking for a good place to move, I have no stake in Wyoming, but that's a pretty powerful statement. But anyway, so these sanctuary ordinances are really based off the Wyoming model in doing it that way and saying, hey, to the local officials, you'll even be penalized either with jail time or a fine if you help enforce gun control coming from the state level.
So let's do this. If you're willing to maybe guide me, and we can talk later, But let's try to make my town here in Massachusetts the first one in Mass.
All right,
All
let's
right.
do it.
I'll submit it. We'll go back and forth, and whatever needs to get done, we'll try. We'll start a little experiment here in the People's Republic. So
Excellent.
we'll
I look
see.
forward to that.
All right. With that said, how we're trying to mobilize the folks, specifically, what can the people, and there's a lot of viewers in Virginia watching this as of late in my channel, and I love you all. Thank you. What can they do, the person watching this now or watching the replay, the guy or gal sitting in Virginia saying, I really want to help, I don't know what to do, what can they do?
Well, certainly if you're in Virginia and you're watching this, make plans to show up at Lobby Day on the 20th. I think I think the speakers, which I'll be one of the ones there, will start at 11 a.m. But really, beginning at 8 a.m. on, I mean, there's going to be a lot of activity, sending teams into the legislative building. Keep in mind, again, if you came in late, the Democrats did change the rules, and so you can't go into the buildings armed. And of course, they will be screening. So, they will know if you are. So you just need to realize that they've changed the rules on that. Although currently you still can carry concealed with a permit on the grounds. So, you're good there. So certainly make plans to be there. I would say also just, in terms of anybody outside of Virginia, just as we were just talking moments ago, Jared, let's bring this movement to Massachusetts, Second Amendment sanctuaries. Let's bring it to other states as well. So get on our email list. This is something that we've been promoting via email. If you go to our website at gunowners.org, you can just sign up there easily for our email list. It's absolutely free. It's just, the more people we have, the louder voice we're going to have in Washington, the louder voice we're going to have in Richmond and all the other state capitals. So, we can't mobilize you if we don't know about you. It's like you said earlier, Jared, that, if one or two comments trickle in, that doesn't really catch a legislator's notice. One of the beauties of having the GOA and VCDL and groups like ours is that we're able to communicate and drive thousands of people at a time into legislative offices, and that's what's getting their attention.
Absolutely. And almost perfect. I want to read this super chat from our Mazden. Hope I'm not butchering your name, brother. But he says that Virginia is not the only state that's under siege from politicians who want to subvert the U.S. and or state constitution. People need to hold their elected officials accountable for violating their oath of office. Spot on. You have anything on that one?
No, I mean, ultimately, and I'm glad the commenter makes this point, because quite frankly, there's a lot that can be done. We need to stay active and vigilant. As exciting as it has been, and it really has been exciting to see the hundreds of people or thousands of people showing up at these Second Amendment sanctuary meetings, or these Board of Supervisor meetings where they're passing these. The fact is, and I was talking to Phil Van Cleve about this, head of VCDL, that as he's talked to a lot of these people, and I don't know in terms of percentages, but a good number have admitted, yeah, I should have been voting in the election. And this is the thing. I think there's a complacency that had happened because, and I'll just speak about here in Virginia, the Republicans were killing gun control year after year after year. I mean, it's been a couple decades since the Democrats had control. And so Republicans were killing things. And so, people get complacent. It's like, there's no threat to my rights. And so it's an off-year election here in Virginia. And, very, very low turnout. Now people are energized, but, the enemy's at the gates, so to speak. I mean, they're trying to, bash down the doors and, storm the compound and take away our constitutional rights. So I think this should be a warning to anybody listening anywhere in the country. If you are not registered to vote, please get registered to vote. If you are like me, who you have adult children, who are of voting age, it's not necessarily the in thing with millennials to register to vote and things like that. Make sure, well, if they think like you, make sure they're registered to vote. It
Right.
is important that they vote in the next election and the one thereafter and the one thereafter. Our rights are on the line, and we have to be like political evangelists where we're getting people registered, we're getting them to the polls. This is really important because the other side is doing this, and they're not even doing. It's true. Bloomberg spent a lot of money in this election, but it's not even like there was this tremendous uprising from all over the state. It was just key strategic districts, less than 5,000 votes in the key strategic districts flipped the legislature from anti-gun Democrat from Republican to anti-gun Democrat, and so the Senate is just controlled by two Democrats.
Right.
A split of two Democrats. So, I mean, we're really talking about small numbers in a real sense, but Bloomberg and Soros have been very strategic in the way that they're spending money. So I'm just saying this is a wake-up call. If you don't want this happening in your state, because Bloomberg's already said, we were successful in Virginia. We're now taking this to other states.
Yep.
You need to realize what we're fighting here, you're going to be fighting in your state. So it is really important that you're registered. And anybody that, in your circle, kids, pro-gun family, friends, church members, range members, whatever it is, get them registered and get them to the polls.
Absolutely. And I talk a lot about Bloomberg and old George Soros a lot. And what's the hardest part for me to get through to people, especially through video, is that these two guys, I was going to say gentlemen, but they're not even worth that title in my book. But they're wealthy beyond imagination, and they're really, really good at what they do. They know what they're doing because it's been working for decades. So for us to just think that, Bloomberg, it's not going to work here, like you said, Soros won't work here, it will. It absolutely will. I've been talking 2.5 years about red flags since the first one was ever filed, and told everybody that Bloomberg is financing this himself. And I got it'll never happen here. It won't happen here. And poof, we're up to 18 or 19 states now. And if you include DC in that.
Right.
Folks, they have to pay attention because like you said, it's coming. And I never thought, I hope I can't say this, so I want to preface that. But if this stuff goes through, if they vote party lines and all this stuff goes through in Virginia, I don't want to say that Massachusetts is more gun friendly than Virginia. I hope I don't ever have to say that, but that's what it's coming to. And Alan,
Right.
Alan and I talk about this all the time. Where New York is more anti-gun than Mass, but because we can buy some stuff that they can't. But it shouldn't even be like that. Shall not be infringed means something.
Right.
And we all have to take a grasp of that and grab the reins and do something. We can't just sit back and hope that Eric and the team take care of it, or Wayne and the team take care of it, or Phil and the team, whatever group it is. We have to actually get off our proverbial asses, folks, and get a stake in the game. We got to put some skin in it. Okay, that's off my chest.
Well said.
So we've told folks in Virginia what they can do. What about the folks nationwide who say, I want to specifically help what's going on in Virginia? How can they? I know the answer, but I'm hoping you can just give the website. They want to donate and specifically help Virginia in what you're doing. Where should they go?
Best place to go is gunowners.org. Obviously, I think in probably the description, you'll have a link, Jared, where people can get a discount for joining Gun Owners of America. And I really appreciate you doing that so that we can get more and more people. But we try to keep the prices real low. We've kept them low for decades so that we can get just more and more people involved in this cause with skin in the game. So it's $20 for a year, but that helps us keep the heat on in DC and around the country. So gunowners.org is the best place for that. But again, let me reiterate too, please get on the email list as well. And you can do that there as well too at gunowners.org, because we want to keep you absolutely engaged and let you know updates with what's going on in Virginia, but also threats in your own state as well.
Right. And I put that in the chat. I'll do it a couple times randomly. So that is the link, guys and gals. Click away there and get it done and join GOA. I always say support those who support you. And if you actually look at what GOA is doing, not just in Virginia, nationwide, local level, state level, federal, and even in SCOTUS, they're breaking their necks, doing what's right. So it's not cheap. Attorneys aren't cheap, no matter how good the retainer is. So please consider joining. Throw them a couple cups of coffee. Save some money from Dunks or Starbucks or whatever, and send it to the folks who are fighting for us, because it's not cheap, and especially when you're going against two of the richest guys in the world who are trying to take what's ours. They're going to need some help.
Right.
So, what would you recommend a person? This is a different kind of question. Somebody who's just getting into this. I was talking to an 18-year-old the other day about how do I figure out how I should vote. Maybe I'm Democrat or whatever. How do I vote? How do I find out what they think about the Second Amendment? Do you have any strategies, or just come out and ask them, what do you think about guns?
Are you talking about like how do you reach the 18-year-old, or how do you help the 18-year-old know who to vote for?
Both sides.
So I think in terms of reaching the younger generation, this isn't an original idea with me, but I've actually done this with great effect. I've actually taken people to the range, and I tell you, in the last year, one of my adult daughters and I took a young couple to the range, and it was really an interesting thing, because I was setting up the firearms. We were in an indoor range, and I'm setting up the firearms in front of us on the table. And the guy next to us, or two spaces over, I forget, but I mean, he had. It wasn't just your normal pow pow pow. I mean, it was more of a kaboom kaboom. The kind, you've been to the range, right? You feel it.
Oh yeah.
Well, we, like I said, we brought a couple. The gal started freaking out. Now, she had never handled a gun. She had never had a gun, like in any way, like in her family history, used in an abusive way. But she starts tearing up, and eventually, like, she just ran out of there. She couldn't take it. And so my daughter runs out after her, talks to her for a little bit, and she finally comes back, and she explains to me. She said, I've never used a firearm, but she said when I started feeling just the percussion of the guy next to us, I just started thinking about what I see on the news, and the mass shootings and things like that, and it just hit me, just that the news media has so conditioned people, because they're only giving people one side of the story, the negative side of the story. I mean, thank God in that Texas church shooting, first of all, thank God that there was several good guys with guns.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're so grateful for that.
And
but
good shots
also
too.
Yes, and for headshot, but also that it was caught on video, because that made it a story. I mean, there have been other stories like that, and they don't get talked about nearly as much as that Texas story did. So that was a real help. But usually it's just, as you know, Jared, it's the negative stories, and so she's just been so conditioned. So anyway, she finally braved it through, and by the end, I mean, she was grinning ear to ear. I mean, I had like an old police issue type, 38 Smith & Wesson, in addition to some other handguns. But she really loved that one, and she wanted to, have a picture taken of her with that gun. I mean, it was an incredible, dramatic turnaround just from her being able to actually fire the gun. So I would say, one thing. Let's say if you're a parent or a grandparent, you've got kids or grandkids who've got friends and they're a little bit skittish, take them to the range. That's a fantastic way to help break through just the media indoctrination. I would say, as far as then educating them, let's say like if you're in Virginia, either VCDL or Gun Owners of America are going to have voter ratings where, we're putting all other politics aside. We're just strictly going on Second Amendment issues, and that's how we're going to be rating the candidates. And so it's a very helpful thing for people to use in the voting booth.
Awesome. Saw this comment come up. Justin, I'm not going to try to butcher your name, brother. Sorry. But he wants you to know, I've tried to join GOA online several times, but the site does not recognize my zip code. So what I'm going to have him do
Wow.
is reach out through the contact us and explain the whole
Great.
situation, Justin, with the zip code. And I'm sure GOA will fix that for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if
Thank
that
you for
was.
trying.
Hopefully you have a real zip code.
Well, thankfully, that's not too much of a problem. This is the first case of something like that I've heard. And of course, the other fallback too is you can always call our offices.
There you go.
703-321-8585. We have real people answering the phones, obviously. But your suggestion too, Jared, reach out through you. That'd be fantastic too. Thank you.
Awesome. Jesse Meek wants you to know that he has never heard of GOA until he heard about you from Liberty Doll and myself, and now he's a member. So these live streams are working.
Welcome aboard, and thank you so much for your support.
Awesome. So let's talk about the 20th. What would you like people to know? Obviously, you're going to be there. I've gotten probably about 2,000 questions and emails and texts and DMs. I can't make it. I will be in SHOT Show because I already locked myself in last year. I didn't know that Northam was going to go cuckoo. But for those who are going, suggestions. I don't know if you've done one before. What should they expect? How is it going to operate?
Well, this is something that VCDL spearheads every year, the Virginia Citizens Defense League. They do a fantastic job of this. And I love the fact that even though they have a rally, a rah-rah rally with speakers and things like that, it's not just that. It's very practical. And I think we alluded to this earlier. They're going to be organizing teams and sending in, everybody who comes, gets to go into the legislative building and talk to the offices, either a staffer or the delegate or senator themselves, although there have been rumors that Democrats were going to take the day off. I guess they don't want to hear from the common folk. Yeah. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case or not. I would just say this, recognize who the intended audience is. It's always, so if this is a lobby day, we want to lobby the legislators. So as far as attire, it's always good to dress similar to the people that you're trying to reach. So if you're trying to reach legislators and legislative offices, not that you have to be in a suit and tie. I'm not saying that, but certainly, just keep that in mind, that's going to have a far more dramatic impact on them. So, take that as advice for what you will. But I think it'll be a great time. A lot of people coming in from all over the country. Stephen Williford is going to be there. Okay. Before Jack Wilson, the recent hero in Texas, there was Stephen Williford, who stopped the guy in Sutherland Springs, right. Texas. So he's going to be there. And a lot of other good guys and gals. So it'll be a great time.
Awesome. And for those who are watching, going down to the lobby day, the folks who can go in to the building, obviously VCDL wants residents to go in. And right. If the numbers they're expecting turn out 50,000 people, there's no way 50,000 people are getting in that building. So obviously, if you're going there, the priority for those who are going in should be the people who live there. So if you are told you can't go in because you live in New Jersey, please don't get upset. There's a reason for that, because it is a lobby day. It's not just a let's go at them and fire it up day. So now, are you familiar with the busing and stuff like that?
Yes. Again, plug VCDL. Go to vcdl.org. They have all the information there, not only for where you can catch buses in your area, but also carpooling. And I do believe there's even carpooling from out of state. Last time I looked, I didn't see buses from out of state being mentioned there, although there may be, but certainly carpooling opportunities from out of state as well.
Bring Back Masculinity wants to know thoughts on Trump banning the bump stock. Leads right into what I was going to ask you about because you guys are still pushing the issue. Could you give us a quick
We
update
are.
on that case?
Absolutely. Well, we had our the latest appeal was in December in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. The actual building is in Cincinnati, Ohio, and so we had our team there to press our case. The ATF had their team of attorneys. We did as well. I think now. I got to say this as a caveat because you always have to be careful about judging how the outcome of a case is going to go based on the questions that the judges were asking. But having said that as a caveat, I was very encouraged by the questions that were being asked, the tough questions that were being asked of the ATF attorney. And it wasn't just me. Some liberal groups that reported on the day's event were very discouraged by the questions that were being asked. So we were encouraged. They were discouraged. We're very hopeful, cautiously hopeful. But all that to say, look, we're still pressing this. And, we fight things in court. Jared, I mean, you know that.
Right.
It's much cheaper and easier to defeat things before they pass. So the bulk of our efforts is, like I mentioned earlier, we generated 3 million emails and comments into the Congress to snuff out gun control this past summer. It's much easier to do that than to allow gun control to pass. And then we have to kind of roll the dice with judges. Right? I mean, because, they're just as political, can be just as political. They're not supposed to be. Let me just say that as a caveat. But, they're humans just like anybody else. And they can disregard the Constitution just like, any legislator can. And so many times it can be rolling the dice. And so it's much better to be able to defeat these things beforehand. But all that to say, when things, we're strapped with the bump stock ban, we're fighting it. If anything passes in Virginia, we're already in conversations with our attorneys to fight it. I hope it doesn't come to that because, again, that's going to be a lot more expensive and a lot more time in the courts, but we're willing to do that. We're in this for the long haul.
Okay, awesome. Have you had a chance to listen to the oral arguments for the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association case at SCOTUS?
I have not listened to the oral arguments, okay. No.
All right. One day, if you do, we can always chat offline about it. I would like to see what you think about that because I listened to it, and it almost seems like it's the typical, the anti-gun justices they're honing in on the mootness, even though right. The question of the issue is still legitimate, but they're right. trying to kill it.
Certainly, that I read the reports of the oral arguments, and you're absolutely right. That's what I picked up is that the anti-gun judges were just, trying to get the mootness issue in the forefront so they didn't have to see, they're very scared that the court is going to strike down not only the law, but then apply a much higher standard than what lower courts have been doing, like intermediate scrutiny or rational basis tests. And basically all this involves, where judges engage in what's known as judicial interest balancing. They say, well, there's this law that's there's this constitutionally protected right at stake, but then the government has an interest in the safety of individuals, so we're going to weigh this. And of course, if you're an anti-gun judge, you're going to end up favoring the law, which invalidates the right. And the case that we've made in our amicus brief is the Second Amendment gives us the standard. In fact, it's even higher than the strict scrutiny that a lot of conservatives want applied, because really the standard is shall not be infringed. Anything that would in any way limit or infringe or deny or delay the exercise of our God-given right to protect ourselves is invalid on its face. That's the Second Amendment standard, and that's the case that we're making to the Supreme Court.
Awesome. One of the comments had asked a question that I don't know the answer to. Is Virginia an open carry state? And if so, can they still open carry on the grounds outside of the buildings?
It is an open carry state, and I would say check with visa. I'm not positive on the grounds. I'm 99% sure you could. Actually, I take that back. Absolutely. Currently, it is legal. I'm just thinking back to previous lobby days. Yes, because I remember seeing people with open. So it is an open carry state.
Okay.
It is open carry on the grounds. We'll have to, I think, stay tuned during the next week to see if there's any changes to that, obviously. From what I understand I was talking to one delegate, state delegate here in Virginia, who was talking to the sergeant of arms. He said the legislature cannot ban guns on the grounds. They can only ban it in the buildings, which is what they did.
Well, they tried.
Yeah. However, the governor could, and I hope the governor is not watching this, but the governor could. So that's why we need to be watching very closely over the next week. But as of now, you have concealed carry and open carry still valid on the grounds, just not in the buildings.
Okay. Project Infinity sends this question to: do you, Eric, think you'll ever see the day where Hughes is struck down, or is that a pipe dream? And then he asks a question about defying these new BS laws, like for civil disobedience. What are your thoughts?
It's a great question, and it's probably one of the toughest things because, just when a law is in effect for so long, people just get conditioned to it. Let me just say this. We have fought to strike down the Hughes Amendment on several occasions. When I say fought, I mean in court. We've brought cases in court. Judges right now just aren't buying it. In fact, one of the tough things, even in battling against bump stocks, is that because the ATF has basically decreed them to be like a fully automatic machine gun, that right there starts clouding the judgment of a lot of these judges who, they just kind of instinctively think, oh, well, if it's a machine gun, then, there's no use for it. So I think to a certain degree, there needs to be a culture change. We're still going to battle it. We're still going to fight it in courts, and we'll certainly try any legislative way. Right now, what we've been doing is trying to kind of piecemeal, and this is the way the left does it. They don't always, go for the long bomb all at once, but they try to chip away at our rights. Well, we're trying to chip away in a sense of reclaiming our rights. And so things like deregulating SBRs or suppressors or things like that, more minor efforts, we think we'll have a better chance with first.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some, and there is legislation in Congress to do that, thankfully, and we've been pushing that, lobbying that, getting our members to support that.
Awesome. All right, let's see. We're at 53 minutes, guys and gals. I don't like to keep this man more than an hour because his time is valuable doing other things for us. So open floor, my friend. Tell folks how they can locate you online, whatever social media, and how they can donate to the cause and whatever else you want them to know, my friend. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Jared. Again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Like I said earlier, you do. I enjoy watching your videos. I'm a subscriber, so
thank you.
Anybody here who's watching this right now, if you haven't subscribed to Guns and Gadgets, please do, because it is a wealth of information just for what's going on nationwide. As far as GOA, gunowners.org is your first stop. You can sign up for membership. Obviously, we need that to stay in the fight. But please sign up for our email alerts. Even if you're just going to, if you've never heard of us, you're going to check us out at first and see what we're doing. The more gun owners we've got that we can activate, the louder voice that we have in every state capital and in Washington, D.C. Thanks to you, Jared. You have a discount where people can sign up for a 25% off discount for gun owners. So I appreciate that. Encourage people to utilize that.
Thank you. I hope that all of my subscribers, I think we hit 182,000 today. It's mind blowing just saying that. I hope each and every one of you are members of Gun Owners of America. If you're not, that's the challenge. Get there. There's no reason not to. $15 is not a lot of money. Even if you save $1.25 a month, that gets you a membership. So please do that. Eric, my friend, thank you. From the bottom of my heart for everything you're doing, for everything that you are leading the cause on. Thank you. I can't wait to see you and thank you in person again. And it means a lot for me that you actually come on here. Kind of validates what the mission of the channel is. So thank you so much, man.
Absolutely, Jared. Well, yeah, absolutely look forward to meeting you in person. So anyway, thanks again.
Really we had it set up, but the good Lord had a different story set in mind for me.
That's right. And so, and for all those of you who are watching and you already are members of Gun Owners of America, thank you so much for your support. It's truly very meaningful to us and again, keeps us in the fight. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for the last hour of your life, spending time with me. It means a lot. It really does. It does not. I'd never take any of this for granted. You all are the reason I keep doing this, because without you, I'm just a dope talking to a screen. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you all way more than you know. Until we see each other again, which will probably be tomorrow, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a weapon, everybody. Good night from Guns and Gadgets from GOA in Massachusetts. Take care.